Airseederparts. Today I'm going to work on an 8-run single chute. This is going on a toe behind air cart. I'll start with that, but one thing I want to mention, so in our kit it comes with like the hardware you see there. It comes with the gaskets. I went ahead and already installed this first, this gasket, now that these manifolds or these plenums made up to. I was gonna mention, you know, this gasket's included. I'm gonna set this out of the way so it doesn't get hurt. So now imagine this, we're sitting, this is the door side, or I call it the left side of the air cart. So here's the side with the latches. So we want the arrow pointing forward. Important thing, otherwise you'll end up taking it apart. I've done it. I've done that. Made that mistake many times. So I thought I'd always just remind you. Arrow pointing forward. So this would be like this. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to set it like this so I don't confuse myself. I'll get started. Oh, one thing. So now we're gonna, on this single chute air cart, you use this, we call it a Plenum or manifold side plates. I'm gonna go ahead and put those on. I like using just an electric driver like this. Be careful with it, but this is sure makes it go a lot faster. I'm going to put them all in, not quite tight until I get them all in and started. Then I'll go ahead and tighten them up. Never cease is so important, just reminding everyone. And remember, on the outside runs, we have to remember to, and I forget this quite a bit, but remember to put our bag hangers on. Bag hanger. So when we use a bag hanger, we don't need to use a little flat washer. There we go. I go four corner, or I'll do opposite corners. So I'm just gonna snug just a little bit. And then you always gotta flip it over and make sure that the carriage, the square's in the, no, this one isn't. There we go. Now I'm not going to tighten them until we get everything all put on. Now I'm going to double check and make sure I'm doing this right. So I'm imagining I'm walking up. Here's the side with the latches. It's a tow behind air cart, so the fan would be back here blowing forward. And my arrow's pointing that way, so I've got this all put together right. So now I can just keep going. Pay attention to this notch. It's the notch on the very bottom. There's a little V groove. Make sure you keep them all the same. Okay, now the next thing, I've got all the manifolds or the plenums bolted down, everything's on there right. I guess the next thing I'm going to do now, I'm going to put these blocks that would go on the clean out door, I'm going to set them all into their place. This is the way I like to do it, and then they seat themselves so nice now, and it's easy to work on with it flipped upside down on the bench. So now I'm going to set my clean out door on here. And I'm going to estimate what it's going to take to shim these 1/4 inch bolts on the end here. And I'm going to start by using about 5 of these 1/4 inch washers below the head of this 1/4 inch bolt, and see how that feels. Now see, I don't have enough tension there. I'm going to add another washer. Now if I bring the door back, yeah, that'll give that'll give the right amount of tension pushing down on those. So I'm going to go 6. Everyone's a little different. Some are 5, some are 7, some are 3. I mean, you got to take and kind of get a feel for your own, since, like I say, we're using used parts again. you know, I got, yeah, that's gonna fit nice. Okay. So now I'll take the 3/8 inch bolt that goes down here as a stopper, and I'm gonna add one washer below that. That looks like it would be about the right amount of tension here. No, no washer. Yeah. This one here, I may even take and buff a little bit off the top of this because I want to put a little more tension on that, and I don't want the head holding it up. Okay, the one thing, when we were test fitting this door, we've got 6 washers stacked underneath the head of this bolt, these 2 1/4 inch bolts on the end. That just gives nice tension on this door against those manifolds. One thing, I was test fitting this side, and the head of the bolt was even a little tall, so I went over to the grinder and I just buffed a little bit off. I buffed off about 1/8 of an inch, and now it just gives me the right amount of pressure, is what I feel. This is something everyone has to remember. We're dealing with some used parts here, so there is a bit of inconsistency. So that's something there. You got to take and fit it to the what you have there. So now going the wrong way. There we go. Now there's just pressure. Okay, so now I'm gonna go ahead, add the screws that screw these blocks against the clean out door. Okay, the last step, I guess I went through and I adjusted these latches on the sides. They're adjustable. You just thread them in or out. I got them where there's a nice snap to it. And the last thing is putting this airflow sticker. So I've got it flipped over on its back again now. The airflow would be that direction. So I'm going to go ahead and put the sticker on the clean out door. That's the best way of doing this because there's enough movement in these and the holes drilled that unless you do it this way, if you tighten them up, say on the floor, and you go to put it on, they maybe won't seat themselves. So I always say to the person that's got this all up in place and he's working on this, leave them loose until you get this snapped on the bottom of the manifold assembly, and then take like a rubber mallet and just kind of tap these. They'll seat themselves, and then go and tighten them up. We don't have to do that since we did it on the bench like we did here. But other than that, as far as adjustments go, that's about it. One thing I wanted to point out, now when you go and mount this assembly to the base of the meter, comes there in that bag of hardware, and like I say, what we've used, there's two bags of hardware that we got in the kit that had all these pieces. So you get these, the last thing, you know, some of the last pieces that we have here. We'd mount this to the base of the meter. We'd remember the gasket. This nylon washer is a spacer that goes between them. that goes between the plenum assembly and the meter. So we use that. We use a washer, and that gives that's just preset, so that gives the right amount of squish on that foam gasket. You won't have any trouble. So what I always do is I have one man stand on one side, put one bolt-in washer, and do the opposite corner. Get them and lift the assembly up there, get it suspended by 2 nuts, and then let it hang down a little bit farther, and then you can slide the washers in, put the bolts in, tighten her up. One other thing that I want to mention too, at times we don't have air leaks, but this is one thing that I like to do, is take and just put a very small amount of silicone right here in this seam. If we ever get an air leak, it seems like it's right here, and I just put a small bead there and wipe off the excess, and that's kind of nice to do if you remember to do it. If not, no big deal.